Growth comes from being uncomfortable, right?
Yep.
And so I want you to toss me around. I want you to punch me. I want you to kick me because I want to get better and better and better because of it. I'm not going to shatter. I thrive under pressure.
Awesome.
And so that's the mindset I've tried to take with all these heart surgeries and different things I've gone through, is that I can just use as fuel to the fire. It's like a candle, right? If I'm holding a candle and a wind comes to this candle, it's going to extinguish it.
Yep.
But if I have a big bonfire and that same wind, that same external force comes to that fire, it's going to ignite it, it's going to fuel it, it's going to take it as an energy bar.
Right.
And so that's what we're trying to do each and every day. This is Kaden and Kyler Terry. This is episode 46 of the Solid Podcast. We're stoked to be on today. It's a solid episode. We talk a lot about overcoming obstacles in life. We talk about how I've had 4 different heart surgeries and how I've overcome that and created my podcast, The Psychology of Success, where we help young hustlers actualize their infinite potential. And Kyler talks a lot about how he flips exotic cars and how he's been killing it since he was 14 years old. So hope you guys enjoy it.
Let's dive deeper.
I'm just very intrigued by how the heck you guys have gotten into business so young and had so much success. I mean, Kyler, you're still in high school, right?
Yeah.
And Kaden, you just returned from your mission, but before high school, you had a lot of business success. And so I'm excited for our listeners to hear you both today because, man, the track record that you guys are on, right, or I guess the track you're on right now is going to be an incredible track record as you get older, as you continue to grow and build. So tell us a little bit about yourselves, who you are, maybe your brothers. So maybe a little bit about that. You have an older brother too, right?
Younger.
Just a younger brother. Okay, so you are the
Cool.
oldest.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought you had an older brother too. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Tell us about yourself. Who are you?
Yeah, so I can start. So I'm Kaden Terry. This is my brother Kyler Terry, who'll introduce himself after. But we've always been into business. Absolutely love it. I think that came from my dad, definitely. I mean, he's big into business, and he got us going early on. Like I remember when him and I were younger playing Little League Baseball, we started selling those little necklaces because they're in style. And so that's kind of what got us going. Then after that, we started a mobile detailing business together. Sold that after 2 years of operation.
How old were you when you were running that?
2016. So
I was like 14 and you
yeah,
were
and I
12.
was probably 12.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Way
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So we got that going.
It was a mobile business?
Yeah. So we started in our garage, and then like a year later, bought a trailer and made it mobile.
So did you just drive around town as a 14-year-old, or who got you to?
So it was we more so bought the trailer just for like resale, and it was easier to sell the company as it like if it was mobile.
Uh-huh.
And so we still did everything in our garage, just because we couldn't drive and stuff. But
Okay.
yeah,
You didn't like break the law and go drive anywhere?
No. I was still like 12 years old, so you could tell.
And the funny thing is, like, yeah, we couldn't drive. We were young.
Yeah.
But we had these issues of like, okay, we got to pick the cars up. We got to get them around. We got to get them vacuumed.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we would just pay like 16 or 17-year-old kids around the neighborhood that we knew like $20 to drive us in the car we're detailing wherever we needed to go. And so we just, I guess, hired help in a way to just figure that out.
That's
Because we
awesome.
couldn't even drive, but in a sense, it still was mobile.
Yeah.
So,
Where did that idea like generate? Like what sparked that idea at that age? It's crazy to me. Like I wasn't even thinking about that kind of stuff. I mean, I was thinking I got to get a job to make money. I was never thinking how to start a business or, I didn't even know where to begin. So how do you? I mean, you say your dad. I mean,
Yeah.
where?
So our dad was doing car lending at the time, so he was lending it, and then the cars that they would repo, he needed detailed, and so he kind of came to us. He's like, "Hey, we're paying $250 to this detailing company. Like, it's dumb. Like, why are we paying someone else to detail the cars? Like, would you guys want to help us out and detail the cars and like get them done?" And so he had given us a loan for $370, like to get like the supplies and stuff, because we literally had nothing. Like, so we took that and we started detailing his cars for $200. We were cheaper than what they were doing, and it was like the only thing we had going on at the time. So we were getting the cars done and doing them good. And so we had grown from like the $370 just for like the supplies and the chemicals and all that stuff, and then built that, and we bought like a brand new extractor that was like $1,200 or something like
big
that.
investment at the time.
What's an extractor?
So an extractor is what sprays the water into the carpet, and then it also extracts the water and the dirt out. So it's like a deep cleaner.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what gets like the carpets and some of the seats like super clean. So
How long did it take you to do an average car? I'm sure some are more than others, but
probably like 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a while.
So you're doing this at 12 and 14 after
Yeah.
school mainly.
Yeah.
And on the weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we learned just from University of YouTube, as I like to call it. I mean, we just figured it out and just got better
That's
each and every
cool.
day.
Yeah.
What a great story of work ethic too at, 12, 13, 14 years old,
yeah.
I think as a parent, that's what you want your kids doing. So
Yeah.
you're not, instead of getting in trouble or, just hanging out playing video games, you're actually doing something productive.
Yeah. Some Saturdays we were doing 3-4 cars. Like it was busy.
How did you feel during that time? Were you glad you were working, making money, or did you feel like you were missing out?
No, not at all.
No.
Like when we would get paid for the cars, it would just do nothing but fire us up more to where we can
awesome.
like keep rolling. Because it was,
So you guys are financially motivated.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Do you think that was influenced by your dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
He kind of helped you realize that this would help you go to the next level and go to the next level, go to the next level. Were you guys reading books at that age? Were you guys listening to audios? Was there people you were looking up to that also helped?
Yeah, and that's what's interesting because my dad showed me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
And I read that, and that's when it all just clicked. And we both started just on this business path. Slowly as I started reading more books, listening to podcasts, that's when I started my own podcast because I realized, okay, I can get in the door with people that I look up to and learn from them. But it all started from that first book.
That was my first self-help book too,
Oh, yeah?
actually.
Yeah.
No,
same here.
yeah,
That's
no
awesome.
joke.
Yeah. It's a good book.
Yeah, mine was Beyond Positive Thinking.
Was it?
Which is like far too deep for a first book. And I was a kid, dude. I'd never read a book my whole life. That was like probably the first book I ever read in my life.
Huh. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. No, then the Cash Flow Quadrant too. That's another good one, right? So I read that one right after.
Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
Man,
But
he wrote some
the
great stuff.
difference is I read it when I was like, how old was I? 21, and I read it. I'm like, why the heck didn't they have us read this stuff in high school?
Yeah,
And
it should be mandatory.
No,
it
they
should
don't.
be. It's
Nothing.
crazy.
Yeah. I always said if they would have had Wealth 101, I would have took it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
show up to
seriously.
school.
I was so
'cause
money motivated.
I could never understand. I would be in class, they'd be like teaching us like geometry or trigonometry or something. I was always pretty good at math. So I always took like upper level math class. I'm like, I just don't understand how this is going to help me succeed in life.
Yep.
I remember one time one of my teachers said, Jeff, if you don't do good job on that test, you're never going to be able to get a good job. I'm like, I'm going to fail this thing for sure. I mean, that's the last thing I want is a job,
Yeah, no doubt.
No,
But
yeah.
they don't ever ask how to motivate you. So that's why they don't teach that stuff in school.
No.
I guess once in a while you find a great teacher, but
Right.
It's rare.
that's
Right.
awesome. You guys were doing this at 12 and 14. So after the mobile detailing, what made you decide to sell it?
Yeah, so we got into buying and selling cars
Okay.
while we were doing the details because our dad had all these repos that these banks were trying to sell, but they couldn't. And so we would buy them super cheap. A lot of them were salvage.
Yeah.
So they're harder to sell, but no one wanted to buy them. So we would. And so we'd buy them and detail them and fix them up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we'd sell them. And we saw that we could make more money doing that with the time rather than detailing. And so we decided to sell the detailing company to a kid here actually at Dixie State, Utah Tech. Sold it to him. And then just started buying and selling from that point since we were, I was 15, you were younger.
We were still way young.
And we've done it ever since.
That's awesome.
How did you market those salvage title cars and have success selling those?
Just KSL.
Really?
KSL, Facebook
Okay.
Marketplace.
Which
yeah.
is for those who aren't local to this area, it's basically a local newspaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
App.
Craigslist, but
Craigslist type.
locally.
Yeah, exactly. And it is effective. It's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, because everybody in Utah gets on KSL for
Yeah.
sure.
Facebook Marketplace is crazy. Like I've sold probably 95% of my cars on Marketplace.
Okay.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
bought a ton of cars on Marketplace.
Even better than KSL now, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially
my wife
like
is
even,
always selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
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 I don't get on Facebook ever, so
yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's the place to sell cars, man. That's where I sell
awesome.
mine. Same thing. And so, like, we kind of worked our way up to where we got nicer and nicer cars.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I left on my mission 2 years ago, I had a 2019 Tacoma that I bought and sold. And then I left, but it's been cool seeing Kyler just absolutely dominating the car game. You have to ask more about it, but since I've been gone on my mission, he's worked with Justin Prince and some other people to where he flips exotic cars now.
Yeah.
He gets on, he talks with people, Justin says, hey, like, what kind of car do you want? And he'll find good deals at the auction to where he can buy and sell it with them and make money. And so
it's an instant transaction.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. Like with Justin, I was able to find him. He said, so how it all started is he wanted to, like, we went down to the Porsche dealership and he's like, will you come with me and drive these cars? He didn't really know a ton about cars, but he had wanted a Panamera, and he's like, they have a few that I want to look at. I want to drive them and see what they look like. And so we went down there, drove a few of them. He didn't like them. And he's like, if it was like this, but he wanted red seats and he wanted it to be white and he wanted it to like look cool. And so I think I took like 2 weeks after we had went down there and drove it, and I found him exactly what he wanted from the auction. And it was all the way in Georgia, I believe. And so we bought it, and then like 2 weeks later, or a week and a half later, it was here. And so it was pretty cool to work with him on that one. And then that one led to sold him like a Volvo. I helped him out with a Navigator that he bought. But it's been pretty cool to just like be able to find these people like exactly what cars they want. Yeah. Just because I have access to like all of the nation, like every car that's listed all over the nation.
How did you learn how to do this and how to find these deals?
Just help with my dad.
Okay.
So he has his dealer's license, and so that's how I'm getting access to the auctions.
Yep.
And so like that, and then also the best deals are private deals. Like if you're gonna buy a car private, it's probably one of the best places to go, because you can negotiate the people down a ton. Like especially these higher end exotic cars, you can negotiate the crap out of these people.
Especially if you have cash, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%. So you just tell the people like, hey, I've got cash and I'll come tomorrow and pick this thing up, and like they love it. They eat that stuff up.
Yeah, because these dealerships have huge fixed costs, right?
Yeah.
They got these buildings, power bills, secretaries, all these people they got to pay. You don't have any of that.
Yeah.
So when people would show up, sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no, I was going to say it allows you to compete in the private market. You don't have to pay all those expenses before you make your profit.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
For sure.
So when people would show up for these cars and you guys were below driving age, or what would they think? How did you handle that? Because a lot of people out there, I'm young, and had you overcome you're still both really young, but you're a little older, but you're still in high school, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
So people maybe show up to get a car or whatever. Anything you did to kind of navigate the age?
Yeah, for me, I just would refer them to the professionals that say, hey, like, I get it, I'm young, but look, you don't trust me, trust the numbers. And I'd show them the value. I'd show them the Carfax. Hey, the Carfax is perfect. There's no issues. Here's an inspection done by my mechanic, him certifying that, yes, this vehicle is in great condition. It's ready to buy, to where they're not so much trusting me, but trusting the facts, right? The data.
So using resources.
Yeah.
You were prepared.
Yeah.
We used to call that third party.
Third party credibility.
Yeah, third party credibility.
Yeah. Really
exactly.
good.
So that's helped me a ton.
And I love how you just call out the elephant in the room. Hey, look, I know I'm young.
Yeah.
I did the same thing in financial services when I was 22, 23, 24. I'm sitting down with mid-30 people, mid-40s. Hey, look, I know I'm young, but I'm going to show you some things that we do as a company, and I'm not going to be the one investing your money. We're going to allow the professionals to do that. Those have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years, but I have access to them. Right?
So I have a question for all you guys, I guess, because I was young too. And, I started in financial services. I was 20. And I never really thought about being young. So it would come up once in a while, and I'm sure, but I don't feel like this happened a bunch. I feel like that's probably a manufactured fear from more younger people, of like this fear of, hey, can I do this? And then they find an excuse to justify it of, hey, it's because I'm young. That's why I'm scared. Do you guys feel like that came up a lot, or it was a common thing, or not? I mean, for all you guys, because Brendan, you mentioned doing that. I don't feel like it ever came up rarely. I mean, once in a while it would. I remember one time some guy says, what kind of degree do you have?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that. So that's probably like if I'm sitting with someone like Kaden, if you came to my door and says, hey, I want to teach you how to set up your finances, I would probably be thinking, man, you're a young kid. What are you going to teach me? So if you said right out of the gate, look, I know I'm young, but I have the access, I would immediately go, okay, what do you, and I would still, now there's still a part of me that is almost like, it's endearing that as a young man, you're willing to sit down with me and go for it. And so I would respect that. But for me, probably not everybody's like this, but I go, man, you're young. What do you know about, finances and retirement 20, 30, 40 years down the road? That's just
How about you guys? I'd like to hear your response to that. I mean, does it come up a lot, or do you think? I mean, I'm sure obviously it happens sometimes. But what's your?
Yeah, it happens a lot for me, and I think the way I'd word it is imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like for me, for example, my podcast, The Psychology of Success, I started that when I was 14 or 15. Yeah. And I would get on and I would talk with these high-level people that have achieved a lot of success. But at times I would catch myself almost giving advice to the listeners and feel like, okay, in the back of my mind, am I at a point where I can actually do this? Yeah. Like I'm so young, I'm just getting started. Like who am I to actually give advice? And I still feel that today, but it's kind of off and on. Yeah. Like, so I totally get that.
Yeah, because I don't know. I've always respected the younger generation because I feel like the younger generation is more social. You know, you start getting into your 30s and 40s, you're far less social, right? You've got this core group of people, you're raising kids, you're focused on life. But when you're young, you're highly social. You're very aware of current trends and what's happening. So I've always felt like I tell someone, if you ever turn on the radio and you go, what the heck is on here, right? You're old, right? Mm-hmm. You've lost touch with the current market, right? And so I've always felt like that the youth had their hands or had their thumb on the pulse of what was happening in the economy, and we should respect that, you know. And if you can use that, it's a very important thing. So that's how I always felt. I never really felt like, oh, I'm too young to be giving someone advice or help as long as I was doing those things, you know. And so obviously I think you guys have had a lot of success, and it doesn't really matter how old you are. You know, it's irrelevant. What matters is what you get done, right?
Yeah, I've always loved to milk my age, like make the best of it. Like I'm young, and if I can prove someone that I'm the best at this thing, like it doesn't matter. The age doesn't matter. Like a lot of kids love to wait for time. Like they think that they're too young to start this business, or they're too young to like do whatever they need to do. But a lot of kids wait like until after their mission, or like it'll figure itself out during college or whatever. But I've always loved to like milk my age and just like get it done now. Why wait?
That's awesome. What a great perspective. Because people want to help younger kids too. I mean, people do, right? I mean,
absolutely.
They want to see, you know, it's like the little kid on the corner with the lemonade stand. It's like you feel guilty driving past it. You know, you want to help those kids that are out there hustling. And I think most people feel that way. Yeah. So it's awesome. So selling cars. So you guys are still selling cars. Anything else you guys are doing on top of that? Mobile detailing, you're flipping cars. What else?
Yeah, so, man, we got a lot going. Yeah. We can get more into it. Maybe I'll start with the podcast. So I started this podcast called The Psychology of Success.
It's a great name.
I appreciate it.
I love that, yeah.
So I can I'll talk about how I started it. It's kind of a cool story. So when I was 14, I was sitting in class at school, and I dropped my pen on the floor, and I went to go pick it up. My heart started to flutter super, super fast, where I almost passed out. And I was wearing my Apple Watch at the time, actually, and I tracked my heart rate, and it got to 220 beats per minute at like a snap of a finger.
No way.
Just like that. So it lasted for about 8 seconds, and it wouldn't stop. And I had to cough, and it finally stopped, and I was like, what in the world was that? And so I went home and told my mom. She's like, okay, we need to go to the doctor. I went to the doctor. They did some tests, and they found out that I have a disease called Wolff-Parkinson's-White syndrome.
And you had no idea?
No idea. And like I didn't have any signs of that beforehand. But basically what it is, WPW, it's where I was born with an extra electrical pathway in my heart that will misfire. And
so you're like Iron Man in real life.
Pretty much, man. Still alive, still kicking it. Yeah. And so this kept happening over and over again. Like I'm playing baseball, I'm hanging out with friends, and it just is fluttering. And so I went to the doctor, and after they told me that, they said, hey, you need to have surgery. You need to have an ablation. And so I was 14 at the time, scared out of my mind, like, oh my gosh, I got to have heart surgery. And so I went in to have the surgery. They did it. Basically, they went into my heart and burned the part of my heart that was misfiring so that I would stop. And so they wheeled me in and then wheeled me back out and said, okay, you're good. And the recovery time was like 2 or 3 weeks, just laying in bed, kind of hanging out. But I was good for about 6-8 months, and then it came back again. I was actually at baseball tryouts, getting ready to play varsity baseball my sophomore year, and it came back fluttering super bad. And so they told me, okay, we got to do surgery again. And the reason why they kind of messed up the first time is because they're not used to operating on younger kids. This is usually something that happens. It's rare in the first place, but it's even rarer for a younger kid. So they had the surgery again. They wheel me in and wheel me back out and do some tests. At this point, I'm totally drugged up. I don't even remember what was happening.
Yeah.
But they told my parents, hey, we just did some tests and it's still having that irregular beat. So we could wheel him back in and do surgery this same day for the second time in a row. And my parents like, okay, let's do it. And at that point, I was starting to regain consciousness. And so I remember this distinctively. This is kind of a funny part. They're wheeling me back in for the second time that day, 3rd overall heart surgery. And I'd gotten to be pretty tight with the doctors, like because I'd been around them so much. They knew my name. And somehow they found out that I was probably talking about my favorite music while I was super high, old school rap. Somehow they knew that about me. And so they were wheeling me in. And over the loudspeakers in the surgery room, they're playing Ice Cube. It Was a Good Day by Ice Cube, like a walk-up song as they're wheeling me in. And I'm dapping everyone up, just saying, oh, let's go, Kato's back. Round 3.
Nice.
That's funny.
And so they performed the surgery, and I was good. I went back and played baseball. I was doing all that. And then my junior year, I went about a year later from that surgery, tried out for the golf team, made the team. And then that very next day, my heart rate spiked again. And at this point, I was frustrated with myself and frustrated with God, like asking him, why would you allow this to happen? Like, I'm doing the best I can to follow you and doing all that I can to become my best self and to be faithful. But why are you allowing this to happen to me to where I'm just having to deal with all these heart issues, right? Because of that, I wasn't able to play on the golf team because I had to have surgery once again for the 4th time. And so I had that last surgery, and that was, junior year. And I was good for a while, then went on my mission to Seattle, Washington. Didn't have any issues. And then I hit about 18 months. So as a missionary, we served for 2 years. Then at 18 months, my heart stuff came back once again. Wow. And so, long story short, I ended up having to come home. And so I wasn't expecting to be here right now.
Yeah.
But here I am. We're getting things rolling with bin blasters, which we'll get more into. But kind of going back to the podcast, during the recovery time of my heart surgeries, I wanted to find a way that I could turn this trial into a triumph, right? Because we learned that through God, we can do anything.
Yep.
And that with him, we can turn any obstacle into an opportunity.
Amen.
Yeah. And so I wanted to find a way to do that. And so I was laying in bed and I thought, well, I've always been intrigued by people's morning routines, habits, like what makes successful people successful. So I thought, you know what, why don't I just start a podcast? And so laying in bed, I went onto anchor.com. It's where you can start your own podcast for free.
Okay. And
I started the podcast, got it going, The Psychology of Success. And that was back in 2019. And I was 14 or 15. And I've done it ever since then because I wanted to give myself an opportunity to share my experiences and also sit down with other people that I look up to and share that with the world.
Yeah.
And so I did that while I was just laying in bed, and that's where it came from, why I started the podcast. So it's been a long journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are you doing now health-wise? Is your heart good
a
now?
lot better. Yeah. So I've kind of done some things with my diet. It's still, every day I work out. I mean, I see Brandon at the gym every morning. My heart still has those weird flutters.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest lesson I've learned is this concept of being anti-fragile. I don't know if you guys have heard about this concept, but it's completely changed my life and Kyler's life. So like if you imagine a box, and if I'm holding this box right here and it was labeled as fragile, if you move this box around, or if this box could speak, what would it say? It might say, handle me with care. Don't move me around, because the more you move me around, I'm going to shatter. I'm going to break. My outside forces, whatever's coming at me, is going to destroy me. So handle me with care. Mm-hmm. Now I want you to think about a different box I could hold in my hand right here. It's labeled as anti-fragile. If this box could speak, an anti-fragile box, what do you think it could say? Maybe, handle me roughly, because the more you handle me roughly, the stronger I get. Not only that, I want you to handle me roughly, because I understand that growth comes from being uncomfortable, right?
Yep.
And so I want you to toss me around. I want you to punch me. I want you to kick me, because I want to get better and better and better because of it. I'm not going to shatter. I thrive under pressure.
Awesome.
And so that's the mindset I've tried to take with all these heart surgeries and different things I've gone through, is that I can just use as fuel to the fire. It's like a candle, right? If I'm holding a candle and a wind comes to this candle, it's going to extinguish it.
Yep.
But if I have a big bonfire and that same wind, that same external force comes to that fire, it's going to ignite it, it's going to fuel it, it's going to take it as an energy bar.
Right.
And so that's what we're trying to do each and every day by using
awesome, man.
God's power. So
What a great perspective. Yeah, I think most people have challenges like that in their lives, and they use them as excuses why to let up, right? And you've used that as a reason to double down, which is awesome.
And it hasn't always been that way. It's been really, really hard. It's
Yeah.
been slowly, and it's just choices every day.
I'm sure. That's all. So, Kyler, in the process, you watching your brother go through all this, and you guys have done so much together. I'm sure you guys are super close, and have been for a lot of years. What was your perspective during that time? How did you feel? Did it make you feel like the need to step up? Were you scared? I mean, what was happening during all this? Because you guys still had success through all this, which is awesome, right? And I heard someone say the other day, it's like, you should never tell anybody about your struggles until what you did during those struggles has paid off. And so now you are, and because it becomes inspiring, you tell someone about your struggles while you're going through them, it hasn't paid off. It just is a story about a struggle, right? But yours is a story about a triumph. Yeah. So Kyler, what was your perspective going through all this, man?
Yeah, so it was pretty hard. Like, we were both pretty young, and so it was hard to see him having to go back into surgeries and stuff like that. And it was a big time in my life where I was deciding to go to Crimson Cliffs or Desert Hills High School to play baseball. And he was at Desert Hills, and all my friends were going to Crimson, and he kept having these surgeries. And so it really broke down to it. I just wanted to play baseball with him. And so, like, we wish that it would have worked out like that, but he had bounced back and forth out of these surgeries. And then it was my sophomore year. So it was his senior year, my sophomore year, when we were going to finally be able to play, because the year before that was COVID, so we didn't get a season.
Right.
And so then my sophomore year, he was finally healthy. I was finally healthy. And then my shoulder, I had to go in for surgery on my shoulder. And so we didn't even have a season to play. But I know that everything like shakes out for a reason. And it's honestly grown us so much closer, just like being able to be there for each other. Like, I was on the bench the whole time there for him. And then, just like the way that I was there for him when he was in his surgeries and stuff like that. So it's honestly grown us a lot closer to these challenges that we've been through, just because we've had to rely on each other. And like the businesses that we've run, we've always had to rely on each other. And so I feel like it's really made us stronger in that way.
I feel like it helped each other breed trust during times you needed each other. It's like, hey, I know I can count on my brother.
Yeah, for sure.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. And now he's always on the bench watching you.
Yeah, I know, sitting right behind you.
Yeah, the couple games I've been to. So
Yeah.
That's really
he's
cool.
always there.
Yeah. So then after all of this, and you started Bin Blasters, or you've started that before your mission as well? Or when did that come into the?
Yeah, you want to
Yeah, so I started that while he was on his mission. How long had you been out?
So real quick, what has Bin Blasters?
So Bin Blasters is a trash can cleaning company. We'd bought a franchise, and we own the St. George franchise. And this was something that I had started while he was on his mission. I
think it was like in October of this year when we bought the franchise rights, and you got it going.
Yeah, so I got it going. I was doing the route every day. And we have a big truck that comes to your house.
What was the price for the franchise? I don't know if you want to disclose that, but how much is it to buy a Bin Blasters?
$40,000, and I think they've upped it since we bought ours.
So you're a 17-year-old buying a $40,000 business.
Yeah,
it's pretty impressive.
And so we own, like I said, we own the rights to St. George, and we bought a big truck that comes around clean. We started with just a trailer. I was just driving a truck and trailer around. We outgrew that really fast, like literally within a month. And so we got a big truck that goes around and cleans the trash cans, and it lifts the cans up, sprays them out, drops the cans. All the dirty water stays in the tank, and we dump that in the sewer at the end of the day. But drops the cans, we spray out the outside of the cans, spray it with lavender scent so it smells good, slap our brand on there, and then move to the next house. And we can get like 30 to 40 stops a day with this big truck. And so we've got one truck right now. We're looking at getting a second truck, and it's just really exploding. We've gone door to door with door to door salesmen. Like we said, the radio ads, digital ads, articles, we've tried to just do everything we can to just blow this up. And he's really taken it since he's gotten home. He's kind of taken it over just because with baseball right now, and I'm just getting ready for my mission. And he's done a really good job with taking over the door-to-door sales.
Is it a weekly service, monthly service? How often do you go and clean the cans?
Yeah. So
and what do you charge?
Yeah. So what we do, it's called the Clean Can Plan. It's $20 a month, and basically we schedule 4 cleanings for the entire year because on average that's about what a can needs.
Yep.
But say like in the summer when you're having your 4th of July party and you toss all this watermelon and grass inside your can, it gets pretty bad. And so what we do, we say, hey, like you can call us anytime. We'll take care of your cans for free. So they're always going to be clean. So $19.99 a month, and then a one-time cleaning is $65, and we'll stop by your house and do it just for the one time. Or you can do the subscription model where you'll always have clean cans.
Cool.
So
I love it.
yeah.
And then you have door-to-door guys go out and they just make a commission if they make a sell, or how do you pay those guys? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just straight commission. So, and right now we're working on getting into HOAs. We've been working with them quite a bit, property managers, and
I'm on the board of my HOA, bro. So.
No way.
Yeah,
dude, there we go. Got it in.
There you go.
Yeah, so HOAs, but recently we were working on
Ledges though. That's up on.
It's a little dry. It's a little dry.
It's Snob Knob.
Hey, people can afford it up there though.
They might not let us up there.
No, they probably would actually.
Yeah.
So now we're getting more into dumpsters. Like I've been spending the past 2 weeks because we have all these HOAs and property managers say, hey, like, will you clean dumpsters? Like these big, massive things in the corrals. And I'm like, that's tough work. Yeah. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So we've been spending the past 2 weeks calling other companies trying to figure out how to do this. And we actually just bought a vacuum to be able to, you basically pressure wash the dumpster and vacuum the water out. And so now we're working with different high schools in the areas and HOAs to where we can clean dumpsters.
Wow.
As well, because we need kind of another revenue stream.
How many customers do you have right now?
So right now for recurring, we have 200. And so that's either on like our Clean Can Plan, where we go all the time. But overall, how many have we serviced?
We've serviced a ton, probably over 1,000.
Yeah, over 1,000.
And do you have somebody go out and drive the truck, or do you personally go do it? Or
no, so I was only in the truck for probably 2 months, probably a month in the trailer and then a month in the truck. And then we hired a driver, and we've got a customer service lady that lives in Oregon that handles all the phone calls.
She's awesome.
Text messages. She'll text you the day before, let everyone know that just leave your cans out and we'll take it from there. She responds to text messages all day long, and she does. She helps a ton.
So what's your overhead per month right now? The cost?
So we've got a truck payment on the truck, and we've got the customer service lady, and then the driver, and that's basically all. We've got the branding now, the door to door kids. We've got a manager for the sales. Jackson helps us out with that. But that's really all of our overhead, just because we're using water and lavender. Yeah. But that's really it.
It's awesome.
Really cool.
It's kind of scary right now because, we just started this and we haven't quite turned a profit yet. And so, with business, it's just so scary putting money in, putting money in and just praying like, am I going to see
Feels like
this
putting
back?
it in never ends.
Yeah. And so we're trying to make that turn. But I just have to keep telling myself, like, man, just be patient.
Well, it seems like you're both very excited about it. You see it. You see a vision of what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's, here's the thing. I mean, you got to have that. It's got to be a purpose-driven business, which it's a good purpose. It's a good thing. You're providing a good service for people. But there's never a place where you're going to arrive and be satisfied anyway. So you might as well have that goal, right, of where you want to get to, but it's the process along the way that's going to bring you all the satisfaction and joy, right, which is what you guys are in right now. So I just think, I don't know, we anyone who's had success, you've already had success in previous businesses, that you just got to keep after it. And even when logically it doesn't make sense sometimes, in your heart it's going to work. That's all it takes, man. And then people get on board with that vision. And
I actually think that feeling you're feeling is the key to success. Yeah. I think that's it. I remember, for the longest time I had that feeling and I hated it, right? I thought it was like this negative, anxious, like fear-based feeling. And I always had this goal to just save $1 million because I thought, man, if I could get $1 million saved, I wouldn't have that feeling anymore. And I remember it happened. I was 25 years old. It was March. I was turning 26 May of that year. And for the first time, I had $1 million in an account, and I called Brandon, and I remember where I was at. I was at a Maverick, and I called Brandon. I'm like, Brandon, dude, I did it, but I'm still scared to death. And he's like, dude, what are you calling me for? Basically, he said, you need to call me if that feeling ever goes away, because that's the day you're done, right? But that feeling you feel is the important thing, you know? And I remember that day, it just changed me, dude, because I realized that feeling was the feeling of ambition. It was actually like this positive thing. It was the thing that kept driving me, you know, not this negative thing that most people avoid, right? They think it's fear, so they avoid it. Or, you know, if, you know, I felt it up to that point and I was like, I'm just going to confront it till I get to the place that I think I need to be. And then I got there and realized, man, I still have this feeling, you know, and then I needed someone like Brandon to help me understand that feeling is the key to everything. You know, the day that's done, you're done, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's awesome to see you guys be willing to go forward. You guys are doing a great job, by the way, because I see it all over town. I see your ads pop up on Instagram.
That's good.
So you guys are doing a great job. It's cool to see, and it's inspiring for me to see a couple of young guys who are just motivated. You're doing business a great way. Everybody loves you guys around town. You guys have a great name, and you're doing a great job, you know. So
Appreciate it.
I know you're going to have massive success long term, you know.
Tell us a little bit about, I'd like to know a little bit about your personal life. Like where are you, like what your, I guess, core values are, how you choose to live your life every day. I mean, you're in high school right now. What's that like out there? You know, you just got out of high school, went on a mission. You're both in this world. It's a crazy world out there, right? And I think it's so important to be grounded in certain virtues and principles and standards. No doubt. Talk about that a little bit. Maybe, you know, did you learn that stuff from your parents? Did you, you know, what are your beliefs? What's your foundation?
Yeah, so we've both always believed in winning the morning, we always say that, win the morning, win the day.
I love that, by the way. That's my, sorry, go ahead.
No,
that's
good.
100%.
So that's always one of the first things that we do is fire it up and hit the gym. We go to different gyms, but that's just something that we've always done almost together, like ever since you left on your mission. But so we always wake up, hit the gym. Then he usually has phone calls and stuff like that. And then I have to go to school. I only have one class, but it's like, so that's usually something that I do. We have a project that we're doing out in Hurricane that usually one of us drives out to and like checks on, it's a real estate project out there and just checks it out a little bit. And then I've usually got baseball. He usually is still doing phone calls and stuff, meetings and stuff like that. And so that's something that we've always loved is winning the morning, just because it sets you up for the rest of your day, and it gets you, if you can get the hardest thing done in the morning, then the rest of your day will just be easier after that.
Yeah, I'm the same exact way. In fact, I saw you guys talking about the 5 a.m. club. I think on one of you. So that's one of my all-time favorite books, and that's where I got that term, win the morning, win the day, that whole concept. Yeah. Because I just absolutely love morning routines, because I feel like if I am intentional in the morning, if I am in control, I'm on offense, right? Then I can end up, I feel like I'm winning the rest of my day. I'm on offense. I'm not on defense. It's a whole different, because like, for example, yesterday, I kind of slept in a little bit and kind of didn't do my routine, but I felt like the day was happening to me rather than for me. I just was like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's good.
And so like that time in the morning and the night is so sacred to me. I call them my AM and PM bookends, because these two bookends are completely in my control. But the middle part of my day isn't. It's just the whirlwind. Everything's happening to me. Right. Mm-hmm. But if I take the time, like, so my routine is, we go to the gym. Well, first I pray, go to the gym, get back. I'll read my scriptures for 20 minutes, and I'll write my goals out, my top 10 goals every single day in the present tense. Then after that, I spend like 10 or 20 minutes reading from a book. And then I'll spend, because I'm not in college right now, I don't think I'm going to go. We were talking about this. So,
dude, I support you.
Yeah, there we go. So I'm intentionally.
Please don't go. We don't need any more liberals in our country.
There we go. Beautiful. Well said. So I intentionally schedule an hour every day just to learn. And you'll see in my calendar, it's just learn. Mm-hmm. And so I do different like online courses or things. And then after that, I intentionally plan my day. I have different schedules I follow. I like to work in like a 90-minute bubble where I'm totally focused on one project, and then I'll take a 30-minute break. It's kind of funny because I was working with Jackson the other day, our manager, and we worked for 90 minutes, and then I took a break, and I actually took a nap, like at 12 o'clock for 30 minutes. He's like, bro, what are you doing? And Kyler was making fun of me. Dude, this kid sleeps all day. It doesn't work. But I'm intentional, because when I'm on, I'm intensely on, and when I'm off, I'm intensely off, so that I can be fully present and give my greatest gifts and greatest service to the world. And so I'm intentional every single day with my time and what I'm doing. And then I schedule, each Sunday back to being a missionary. Mm-hmm. I like to plan my entire week. Yep. And I'll put times in for me, for my family, for my friends, so that I put those first things first, and then everything else kind of.
I think that's a
falls
lot of wisdom there. I think like one of these you cover, there's rest, and there's a lot of wisdom and recognize there is a time you need to rest, right? And if you can't be your best, you probably need to take a rest. And so you already have that planned in your day.
Yeah.
And I think I love how you said you like to play offense. You want to be in control, because I think it's important to be prepared for the storm, but I think it's more important to be the storm, and you're prepared to go into that thing, and you're on attack mode,
yes.
and you're playing defense because you're on attack mode. I think the best defense is a great offense, is my opinion. Even if you're playing defense, you're playing it offensively. You're looking for a way to, sometimes I hear people say you don't score on defense. Well, it depends in football, if the defense gets an interception or fumble, they can still score, right?
Yep.
So if I'm playing defense in football, I'm still looking for a way to score, not just stop. I don't want to just stop. That's part of my job, right? So we got to be prepared. And I love how you talked earlier, your preparation in selling those cars, what you did to prepare. And that was playing offense, in my opinion, not defense, by being the most prepared going into a sell with cars.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, I think routines are crucial, whether it's, we've talked about this before, because I'm not the 5 a.m. guy. I'm not. And I never have been. But we were talking about it before, Brandon always has been, and I never have been. But, I call him at midnight, he's in bed, and I'm still awake working, Mm-hmm. But I think having these routines that set you up for success, right? You have certain things that are non-negotiables, right? Which sounds like you are prayer, self-improvement, fitness, and rest, right? These are things that are important. I know that it seems like the last couple of years, there's these guys on social media that like brag about never getting any sleep, brag about, and it's like at some point you're going to break, right?
Yes.
And you just can't do that forever. And I believe that we should have routines that set us up for success in all areas of our life for as long as we desire to go chase success, right? That you can do it forever. One of my mentors, Bill Whittle, he always said, Jeff, you need to pick a pace which you can do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you'll beat everybody, because eventually somebody will let up, they'll get tired, they'll get distracted, but if you can continue that pace forever, you'll blow past them, eventually.
Exactly. And it reminds me, like, I feel like I've heard it said that life is like a marathon. We're just constantly going.
Yep.
And it's like you're saying with work, like if we're always grinding and just bragging about getting 4 hours of sleep, like what kind of work are we actually producing? Like we're just getting surface level crap. And so the way I like to look at my life is a series of sprints, right? I'm intensely I'm sprinting, giving my greatest gifts and greatest service to the world, my best deep work. I'm fully present, fully focused, and I'll take a break. Then I'll fully sprint and then take a break, fully sprint to where I'm doing it the very best I can. At least that's helped me and worked for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And I think also that's inspiring to other people too. Because I think as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as people trying to impact the world and our communities in a better way, we want to inspire other people to want to do something similar, right? Mm-hmm. Where if you're bragging about, working so much, you only get 4 hours of sleep, never seeing your family, and it's all sacrifice, it doesn't inspire someone to say, hey, I want to do that too. Mm-hmm. You want to be able to inspire somebody to say, you know what, that's the kind of life I want to live. I want to be close. I've always said that, I want to have a relationship with Christ that leads my life in a way that when people come to me and say, hey, what's the secret? I can say, here's the secret, right? And that leads them to a conversation where they're seeking it out rather than me having to tell them what they should do, right? They're seeking that advice. And I think, you guys have obviously done that. You're doing a great job, man.
I want to share this with you because something that I just recently started doing the last week and a half, ice baths, right? So people ask, why do you do an ice bath, or what's the benefits? I go, well, just go start doing them because you'll see. I mean, until you do them yourself, right? Because they do suck. I mean, when you get up first thing in the morning and the last thing you want to do is jump in a cold bath or take a cold shower. Start off with a cold shower, And if you're in an area like St. George in the summertime, it's not going to work, by the way, because you can't get cold enough water, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you have to have a plunge or buy a lot of ice.
Yeah.
I mean, wintertime you can do it.
Yeah, that's why I bought a plunge finally, because I was going to buy ice every day. Like I was filling up the back of my truck,
That's commitment.
It's crazy.
Because every day, like I don't want to do it, but then I do it anyways, and I feel so good. It's developing that mindset to where it's like I can deal with being uncomfortable. And I can learn how to calm, because you're sitting in that ice and you're like, oh my gosh, you just forget about everything and you're fully present. Yeah. It's almost calming in a way for me.
It is.
Yeah. Like it's meditative.
It is.
I love it.
And I've been getting in and going head under right away. First thing, because, and it's better. Like you do that first thing and then it's almost like even more relaxing.
Yeah, I think you have to. whether it's at the beginning or the end, I feel like you have to dip your head.
I
Like,
think
your head's gotta
what's
go
the
in.
Huberman? What's his first name?
Andrew Huberman.
Andrew Huberman. He said that He said that you get more benefits if you do your head right off in the beginning versus the end, because I guess it gets your neurological system.
Yeah, you have all these nerves on the back of your neck.
Okay.
Yeah, that if you and on the front of your face. Like, a lot of people don't know that you have so many incredible nerves on the front of your face. Like, if you get knocked out and hit the water, the reason why you don't drown is because you have these nerves that know your face is in water.
Whoa.
Crazy, huh? So that's why the first thing, if you ever know if someone's laying in water, the first thing you do is flip them over, and that's because then they'll take a breath more likely. Yeah, because those nerves know you're underwater.
Cool.
So that's what the cold water does. It shocks all these nerves on the front of our face and the back of our neck.
Good to know.
So
Dang,
little bit of
puts you in a fight or flight, and you just learn how to deal with it.
Yeah, your body subconsciously just knows from those nerve endings. Yeah, kind of crazy, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, no better feeling than when you're just sitting in there just breathing and breathing. And people don't understand that. They think you're the craziest person in the world. Like, why would you do that right in the morning? There was a hike. I don't know if you guys know Mitch Matthews. He played for BYU, but he's a big entrepreneur up in Salt Lake. But he put out on his Instagram probably, I think you were on your mission. So probably a year and a half ago or something like that, that he was doing an ice hike, like Wim Hof style, because he went to the Wim Hof camp and did all that. But so he was doing an ice hike, and so I went up there. Jackson actually went with me. He was living up there at the time. And we went up and did this ice hike during the middle of winter. It was cold up Provo Canyon. And we all took our shirts off, had these like short little shorts on, and did this hike. And then it was crazy because the wind was blowing, and like just the whole time, it was literally the most peaceful thing I've ever done, just because it was freezing and the only thing you were focused on was your breathing.
Yep.
And so it was so calming. And like, you can't tell people that. They just have to experience it, like for them to know the actual benefit of it. But it was seriously the most peaceful thing I've ever done.
Well, I think, for people with mindsets like us, where we're facing hard things, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an athlete or something like this, you face hard things, and then you realize this dopamine reward that you get after winning, where most people in the world they're just weak. They avoid pain at all costs, and they seek comfort, and so they're always, just doing everything they can to be comfortable. One of the things I just harp on all the time is just how overweight people are in America, and it drives me crazy. And it's because of the way they eat, and then their lack of willing to confront physical pain. It's like, let's face it, going to the gym, like doing squats sucks too, right? Doing deadlifts, it sucks too. But how you feel afterwards, you never regret. I always say you never regret going to the gym, but you will regret not going to the gym. You never regret getting into a cold plunge, but you may regret not doing it if you don't know, once you realize what you're missing. And so it's like, in society today, I don't know where, I was telling my wife this yesterday, I don't know where it happened, but I feel like it was in our generation where, it used to be, for us, our parents, it was cool to have a strong dad, like a dad that was like a man, that he led his family, that he was like this strong American man. And at some point in our lives, it's almost like men just got weaker and weaker and weaker. And it was almost like praised. It was praised that men, it's okay to be overweight. It's okay to be weak. It's okay to avoid physical challenges. And I think that's why people think we're crazy, right? Is because they go, why would you do that? Well, because there's a lot of benefits. Oh, that's just not for me, and it's like, well, obviously, right? It's obvious, and I think, that's why I say with college, I think there's a place where sometimes people need to go to college is important, right? For certain careers. But the reality is society has put us in a place where it's okay to avoid confrontation or conflict. And I don't think it is, right? Because avoiding hard things leads to worse challenges, right? But confronting, like you're talking about with your heart, one of the things I really, I heard as you were saying that, how cheerful you were when you heard Ice Cube, the Good Day on, right? Like most people aren't going in high-fiving the doctor going in for another surgery. You know what I mean? And that's a mentality of saying, hey, it's hard, but I'm going to make the best of it, and I'm going to come out stronger because of it. And I really think that is the difference, like cold plunge. I think that's why I encourage everybody, take a cold shower. Like the last 2 minutes of your shower, turn it as cold as you can. It sucks. But we have to encourage more, especially men in America today, to just do hard things and just get stronger, whether that starts physically or it starts mentally, wherever it starts. Because if you start mentally, it's gonna lead to physical strength. If you start physically, it's gonna lead to more mental strength, right? And so wherever it starts. So it's cool to see you guys at a young age really go for these things, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are becoming strong men, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's so important, not just strong men, but the dangerous men in the right ways. You know, I love what I posted something yesterday from Tim Kennedy, and with all this violent stuff going on in the world today, and he said the only way to stop a evil, violent person is with good men who are better at it.
Yep.
You know, and all this stuff we're talking about, you know, using your minds to better people's lives and your health, and then also I think surrounding yourself with the right people, which is what I wanted to ask you about next, is how have you guys chosen who to hang around, who to be around? I mean, one of the people you brought up was Justin Prince, who is a great mentor to have around and have in your corner, but also good friends. You know, it sounds like you've got great friends like Jackson, who's here. One of your friends. Seems like you guys have a good core of people that you've surrounded yourself with. Was that intentional? Did it just happen? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, for me, you know, I've always been very intentional about who I surround myself around. Part of the reason why I started the podcast was to get in the same room with people that I look up to a lot. And so that's how I've been able to find a lot of mentors, because I'll interview them and I'll kind of see the type of person they are. And then I'll try to build that relationship if there's someone that I really look up to and want to be like. And then friends-wise, you know, personally, I'm not like super, super social, like outgoing. Like I'll talk with people, but I'm not kind of the type of person to have a huge friend group. Even in high school, Kyler's the same way. It's interesting. We're very similar to where I like to find just solid people that I like to be around, that build me up. And I try and surround myself with those type of people. And it
pun
seems,
intended.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it seems like that's just kind of happened naturally.
Yeah.
Like as I've worked on myself and treated people right. In fact, that's my life motto that I have, that I try and write down every single day. It's to make everyone around me feel important. I have the time, money, and resources to serve anyone in need by making meaningful goals with a game plan to achieve them.
So a big lesson
awesome.
there is you have become that person, and so you've attracted those people.
Yeah.
Because you've become that.
Yep. And so like my goals, I write in the present tense. So for example, for Bin Blasters, I write, we have 1,500 recurring customers. Because subconsciously that's tricking my mind into thinking, okay, we already have those customers.
Acting as if.
So I need to be that person right now to be able to achieve that goal. It's not in the future. I'm not reaching for it. Or I treat everyone around me with respect. I make presently everyone around me feel important. By saying that, it's tricking my mind into becoming that person right now, not in the future, but now, actualizing that potential. And so by doing that, like you're saying, it's helped just naturally cultivate my environment.
And I think it's important that as you're making those statements, and is that you're actually living up to that which you are.
Yeah.
I think the mistake people make is they may make those statements, but then they're not living up to it, and now they're lying to themselves. And I think that does a tremendous amount of damage inside of us. So it is important that you line those two things up, which you're doing. So I agree with you 100%. You should do that, but then you got to make sure you're tricking your mind, but you're also intentionally moving towards that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it's a different. It's self-esteem, right? Which is your words and your actions match up, right?
Yes.
And so someone whose words and actions match up have a high self-esteem. Someone who says one thing but does something different has a low self-esteem, and that's obvious in their actions, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are your guys' parents like? Because you guys are studs, you know. And I think, you know, a lot of times you meet young kids like you are, and I feel like the younger that you see great men happen, like you guys are, you know, or women, but in your guys' case, great men. The younger it happens, the better example they usually had from parents. Not always, right? Because, you know, while I love my mom and, you know, my dad's passed away, I love my mom, but I didn't have these great examples, right? Growing up, I had people like Brandon and other mentors in my life. So what are you guys' parents like? Are you guys' parents great people? Did they instill these values in you? Are you guys the product of some of the values your parents taught you as young kids?
Tell the story in the beginning.
So we grew up with divorced parents when I was probably, I don't know. How old
4
were you?
and I was 6.
Okay, yeah. So our whole life they've been divorced. And it's kind of been hard because they had to completely restart. Both my mom and dad had to completely restart back in 2008. They filed bankruptcy and they just like were wiped clean. And so with my dad, we grew up in a single bedroom apartment. Me, my younger brother, and my dad all slept on the same bed in the master bedroom. Kaden blew up a mattress every night and slept in there.
Did they get divorced during the '08 crisis? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my mom lived with my grandma and grandpa, and so it's always been like we've learned from them and we've also grown with them.
Yeah.
We've learned from people that they've dated who we want to surround ourselves with and who we don't. And it's been cool to see them absolutely killing it now and us being able to grow with them every step that they've grown. And so, yeah,
and it's cool because, you know, we've learned a lot with them, just like he's saying. Because a lot of times, for example, like my dad, he was super big into real estate, just killing it. Then '08 came and wiped him clean. And so it's been so cool seeing him just getting back up and just absolutely killing it. Like he's got a car dealership. He's doing all kinds of things. He's doing real estate, has an impound company. But it's cool seeing him, just his growth. And then my mom, you know, she was just a stay-at-home mom. And then when she got separated from my dad, she went back to school, went to nursing school while my brothers and I were young. And so for a lot of that time, it was just us at the house, like just during the day, you know, making ourselves food, just being independent. And so those lessons taught me a lot, right? It taught me, for example, on my mission, I can share two different lessons I learned from that. Growing up with parents being separated, we were always going back and forth. And I absolutely love my parents. They get along great now. I look up to them so much and love them. They've had a huge impact on my life. But during that time, we're always going back and forth. And so I was used to not being with one parent at a time. So on my mission, a lot of times missionaries have trouble with homesickness. Yeah. But for me, you know, that wasn't an issue at all.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that was a huge lesson from the mission. But another big lesson I'd love to share that I learned specifically about God and his plan for us is with the mission. I remember always telling my companions, like, hey, like, okay, so for example, like I remember one morning we're getting up to go play basketball. And as we walk out the door, I have this little, do you guys know what a shoehorn is?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the shoehorn, for the listeners that don't know, it's this little metal piece that helps you put on like a dress shoe. Yeah. And so what I did on this shoehorn, I wrote Memento Mori. And so Memento Mori is Latin for remember death. It's a reminder that our life is finite and like it's not going to last forever. And so with my companions that I would say, hey, like every time we walk out, I want you to hit this and remind yourself that this could be your last day. Like you don't know, us going to play basketball right now, I'm going to tear my ACL and have to go home, right? Yep. And so we would always remind ourselves that. And so I'd always tell them like, hey, like treat today as a gift from God, because give your greatest gifts and greatest service to the world, because you don't know if it's your last. Yeah. So I told myself that every day in my companions. And then it actually came true to where I started having issues and I had to go home. And so it was a real eye opener for a lot of those missionaries in Seattle to see that, hey, like, oh my gosh, Elder Terry was right. Like this, like each day is a literal gift. Let's take it. Let's not take it for granted. And so that's a motto I've used now for the rest of my life, you know, realizing that this is literally a gift from God. I don't know if today could be my last, so I don't have time to waste. I'm not going to procrastinate. So like even each morning when I wake up, there's this little painting. Maybe you can show it for the listeners. I'll send it to you afterwards. But it's of this skeleton. This skeleton, it's termed as like the angel of death. And I know it sounds kind of gory, but stay with me. So this skeleton, it's this old German painting. And he has this bow and arrow, and it's aiming right at the center of the picture, basically at you if you're looking at it. And he has this arrow, and he has a little satchel on his back, and there's an arrow on the ground. And so in the German, it reads, there's a little title for the arrow that he's holding, aiming right at you, and it says today. And then there's another arrow in his back satchel that says tomorrow. And then another arrow on the ground that's broken that says yesterday. So basically saying, hey, yesterday I tried to get you. You almost lost your life. Yesterday could have been your last day, but it broke. Today it's aiming at you, death. So don't waste it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't get you today, I got another one tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so it's very symbolic and motivating to me because I see that each morning and I realize that, hey, man, this is the time. I got to do that ice bath. I got to get my reading and I got to read my scriptures because I got to serve. It could be my last day.
It's awesome. Do you feel like you got that perspective and that motivation came from that perspective because of the issues with your heart?
Mm-hmm. Totally. Dude, it was a total game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's awesome, man, because, even as you talk about your parents, you talk about what happened with your heart, you talk about these experiences on your mission, a lot of it just has to do with perspective, right? Because so many people, if their kid or if their parents separate when they were young, I'm sure it seems like your parents had good perspectives as well as they were growing out of that, not, making bad decisions after it and having this toxic relationship. I'm sure it wasn't easy for them, but it sounds like they've done great. Mm-hmm. And that was their perspective. Seems like it influenced your guys' perspective as well. And then you have these health challenges where obviously, your Kyler, your brother's going through this stuff. I'm sure it impacts you as well. That our perspective is everything, right? We can take any situation and decide whether or not it's going to make us better or whether it's going to make us have a negative perspective and make us worse, right? And so it's awesome to hear because I think if more people can just change their perspective about today, right? Mm-hmm. Because so many people live so much in the past. And it's like you can't change what happened in the past. You can't change what someone did to you. You can't change if you are overweight and you need to lose weight. You can't change that. You can't change what happened if you missed a season from baseball because of COVID. You can't change any of that. And you can't change what's going to happen tomorrow, but you can do everything in your power to just be better today. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take very many todays to add up to make an incredible life. I think you really can change your life in a 90-day period of time, and you can change the trajectory. I mean, you might not totally change your life, but if you're going the wrong direction, you got to turn around, you start moving the right direction. 90 days later, you're going to look like a totally different person, right? And that's just because of perspective. So it's awesome that you have that perspective. And I hope that as people are listening to this podcast, I'm sure that there's a lot of people who have had challenging situations, whether it was divorces or whether it was health challenges or whether it's an entrepreneurial challenge where they faced a hard economic time or whatever it may be, that their perspective is what matters, right? Waking up every day and giving it your all today because it is a gift from God and just saying, man, I got another day and I'm going to do my best today to be the best person I can today, and if more people would have that perspective, regardless of whether or not they got wealthy or whatever, they can have a positive impact in their community. Yesterday, Kelsey and I were driving down Diagonal. You guys know Diagonal. Yeah. It's a weird road because if you ever drive down, you really pay attention. There's a lot of new, people who have restored their homes and there's no big homes on Diagonal, right? But there's some beautiful homes. They take care of their yard. They're brand newly renovated. And then next door, there will be this home that's like just a pile of crap. It's got 18 cars in the front yard and stuff everywhere. They've never done their yard. And I told Kelsey, because my son was with me, and I said, what blows me away is how people live their life, how different it yields results, and it's evident in the way that they live. And my son goes, what do you mean, Dad? He's 8. And I go, look, and I go, for example, this house is nice. They've got a nice yard. They work hard. They might not make a ton of money. They might not be mega successful, but you can tell they take pride in their life. Where the person next door, they live in the same street, same size house, same everything, but the person next door, they don't take care of anything. And I go, that yields a result like when they go to work. You can tell if someone goes to work that they work a little bit harder. Maybe they show up a little bit earlier. They take care of their company. They treat people a little bit better, which leads to better results in life, right? Mm-hmm. Where the person next door, they don't pull a weed, they don't care. Maybe they rent, they don't care what their house looks like, they don't care about their reputation. And does that person ever get a promotion? Probably not, right? And so these two different choices, while they could make the same amount of money and live in the same neighborhood, their perspective ultimately leads to a dramatically different life. Right?
That should be an interview request when you're having a job interview. Hey, send me a picture of your house and the inside of it.
Yeah.
Your currently, right?
Uh-huh.
Right? Because that would actually show a lot about the person and how they live.
Uh-huh.
And,
yeah, because it really isn't about how much money somebody makes or not, but what is your perspective about life?
Yep.
So I love hearing this perspective because I really think that, I didn't grow up with anything. I grew up poor in a bad neighborhood. And I have multiple siblings and I just made different choices. But it really, if you spent time with me and my siblings, you would go, oh, the only difference that I can find is our perspective about life. It's the only thing different.
Yeah. So it's something I'd love to share about that because it sounds like it's very important to have a clear vision of your future. because you know exactly where you're going, and you kind of deal with the present challenges that you're having. So, for example, so this is an interesting study that was done by some scientists at Harvard University by the name of Kurt Richter is his name. So this scientist, he got a bunch of rats together, and what he did, he got these buckets of circulating water, and he would put these rats, just one of them, inside of this bucket of water. I don't know if you've heard of this, but awesome. And so this rat, they were testing to see how long this rat could survive. And so this rat swimming, and so they timed to see how long it would last before it gave up and started to drown. And this rat, on average, the rats lasted about 15 minutes, right? Before they picked him up, took him out, patted him, gave him some Gatorade, just kind of let him chill for a minute. But then like 20 minutes later, they took these same rats and tossed them into the same bucket of water. They do the same exact thing. They test to see how long the rats last. And so I always ask, how long do you think the rats lasted the second time? It's the same environment. They were just in here, tossed out, got some Gatorade, and then put back in. How long do you think they last?
Days.
Yeah, for real. So they last on average 60 hours, right? The numbers might be, I'm kind of butchering the numbers, but they went from 15 minutes to 60 hours. They lasted that long because they had a clear vision of what saving looked like, what being saved looked like, and what their future could be. Yep. So the second time around, they kept on swimming.
They had hope.
They had hope.
Hope they were going to get saved, yeah.
Exactly.
It reminds me of that story Brandon told me one time. I was struggling in my business, man. It was like I couldn't seem to get a breakthrough. And I called up one of our mentors one day, and I go, hey, Brandon, man, I'm just struggling, man. It seems like it's never going to happen for me. And I go, I'm working hard. I'm giving it everything I got. And he goes, Jeff, he's a pilot, and he has his own plane. And he goes, let's imagine we're flying over Lake Powell. For those of you guys listening, Lake Powell's a huge lake, And he goes, let's say we're flying our plane. There's no moon out. There's no light. You can't see anything. And boom, we hit the water and we crash. And he goes, how long can you swim before you start drowning? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. And he goes, let's say you just start swimming. And you keep going. And then, you go, I can't swim anymore. It's too far. And you drown and your spirit comes up and you look back and you were 10 feet from shore. Would you have kept going? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, you're 10 feet from shore. Just keep going. Click. And it hangs up.
Man. That fires me up.
Yeah. It's like, what a good analogy, because a lot of times, that's how it is, right? That's all we need. We need hope. And that's what you guys are doing, I think, for a younger generation. That's why
Bin Blasters is 10 feet from shore.
Yeah. No, serious. Because a lot of times we just need someone just one step ahead of us just to say, come on, let's go, just to cheer us on. It's a power of the crowd, power of someone cheering you on, is that. So it's what a great story.
Absolutely. We appreciate you guys coming on with us today. Just did you skip school to be here?
No, not today. No.
Okay.
He doesn't go to school.
I was going to say I'm proud of you for skipping school to be here. No.
I'm only there on game day.
Yeah, when he has to be legally.
Showing up with a tie. Do they make you wear a tie on game day?
Not anymore, no.
All right.
So where's the best place for people to find you? Obviously, you've got your podcast, but tell us where to find you guys.
Yeah, so for me, you can follow me on Instagram at 11Kado, Kado. And then my podcast is at Psychology of Success Pod. You can get on Instagram, TikTok, and it's available on any platform.
It's a good one too, by the way.
Yeah. I just had Brandon on. That'll be released here soon. But it's all about helping young hustlers actualize their infinite potential that they have inside of them. But we just help them realize it by bringing on different entrepreneurs and people that can help us do that.
Awesome.
So, and then with Bin Blasters, you can hit us up at binblasters.com. You'll see our social media stuff. If you're someone that wants to sell door-to-door for us, we're always hiring. We're looking to build our team. So DM me or Kyler, but how can they get a hold of you?
I do all my stuff on Instagram, Kyler Terry on there. You can see my cars and stuff like that. But
cool.
Yeah, all my content goes to Instagram.
Awesome.
Good deal. Well, I'm glad you both came together today.
Yeah.
We're going to have Caden for sure, and I'm glad you were able to make it with him. So
for sure. Real quick before we go, I know Kyler, you got an LA hat. I got to give a shout out to
whoever's out there.
Scott Lord, he hates the Dodgers. I was telling you guys I always wear an LA Dodgers hat, and he sent me a San Diego hat. So shout out Scott.
Suede one. Suede,
I know,
isn't
man.
that suede?
Yeah, it's like a leather.
That's clean.
That's clean. Might need one of those.
So,
for real.
Nice.
So shout out Scott for listening.
I wonder if you like San Fran.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Send me a hat if he doesn't.
Scott. Let us know.
All right, guys. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks.